What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a bit to talk to you about, obviously. Hurricane Erin went from a 75 mile per hour Category 1 to a 160 mile per hour Category 5 in the span of 24 hours. That is absolutely bonkers. And this is what Erin looks like right now. It's still continuing to organize and potentially strengthen at this current point. So we're going to want to watch and see how that evolves. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right now. Starting off with the National Hurricane Center, here is the latest advisory as of 2 p.m. It is a Category 5 hurricane, Cat 5, Erin passing north of the northern Leeward Islands. Outer rain bands 160 miles per hour, minimum central pressure of 915 millibars. Its present movement is west at 16 miles per hour, and it's currently, right at this current point, with the wind field, tropical storm force winds extend outward 140 miles from the center, and hurricane force winds extend outward 30 miles from the center. So this is still a pretty small system overall, so we're going to want to watch and see how this pans out. And looking at the discussion for you guys right here, this is pretty much outdated right here, but we do need to discuss, at least for right here, the initial intensity. This was at 155 miles per hour at the 10 a.m. advisory. Then we got they're having their peak at 165 miles per hour right here. I personally think it could be a little bit higher, but that's kind of realistically where I would cap it at this current point. I think a 175 mile per hour system, if the system continues to organize the way it is definitely plausible, but we'll have to see as time continues to progress. And looking at the cone for you guys right here, this is the latest that we have for you. It's still moving to the west. It's expected to start making that turn more so towards the northwest in the next day or so, and then more so towards the north by Tuesday and Wednesday, and then out to sea by Thursday. However, there have been some new and kind of disturbing developments that we need to talk about right now, because this system isn't kind of making that turn as much as some of the NHC and other areas do want. So we're going to want to keep that in mind moving forward. But with that being said, let's go ahead and show you some satellite imagery. So this is what we have from the DAPIA website. We have this pulled up for Hurricane Erin right here. A pinhole eye is quite impressive, I would say, right here. A very beautiful structure to continuing to organize and strengthen as this continues to move. Seizure warning to those prone to flashing lights, by the way. I do apologize for that, but that's just kind of the norm right here with the DAPIA website, so that's something to keep in mind. But then you have this right here, but here's what we got for you. We are seeing a lot of those minus 80 cloud tops really starting to turn up and really starting to kind of wrap around a little bit more on the western side. You did see an attempt to do it on the eastern side before those warmed up a little bit, but still the banding is there, and it's quite a powerful system right here. Looks a lot better than it did this morning, and you're seeing more convection kind of firing off over here in parts of the western part of the system right here. And essentially what we're noticing is two things right here. Number one, this system really hasn't been gaining as much latitude as the NHC and other areas have forecasted at this current point. And this is because the system has strengthened so fast, and the system is so strong that ultimately this is causing the ridge to strengthen with it as well and kind of drive it further to the west because of the pressure gradient force that Erin is producing right here. This is a 915 millibar system in a relatively small area right here, so you have to consider that right there. That pressure gradient is pretty tight across that entire hurricane right there. But also another thing we're watching as well is we were looking at initially at a potential eyewall replacement cycle with this system, but based on latest microwave imagery and based on latest satellite, that's not really happening right now. At this current point in time, there was one starting to form earlier this morning. There was a double eyewall starting to develop earlier this morning. However, that double eyewall kind of got blown out and kind of got picked apart by Erin, as well as some potential wind shear that could have started impacting the system as well. Erin's just pretty much been defying everything right here. And I've said this before with other systems. I believe Erin is going to be a tone setter for the rest of the hurricane season. And this is kind of eerily similar to what we saw last year because in 2020, because with this was our first hurricane of the season, our first major hurricane of the season, and our first Category 5 hurricane of the season. And this eerily reminds me of Beryl a little bit because in 2024, this was also the first hurricane of the season. Granted, that was in late June. I think it was June 29th. Then it was our first major hurricane of the season. That was June 30th. And then our first Category 5 hurricane of the season, and that was July 1st. So Beryl was record-breaking because of how early it was. Erin is somewhat record-breaking because of just how fast it intensified and the fact that we weren't really expecting it to get this intense this fast. We were thinking maybe major hurricane status by this point, but not Category 5 right here. And another thing that I need to note is kind of it just moved into a lot better conditions. It's moving into the southwestern Atlantic right now. It really took advantage of a lot of that ocean heat content that I've been talking to you guys about, and those water temperatures really spiking up to around 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living in the United States and her territories. But man, this was quite the scenario because 2 days ago, this was a tropical storm, and I was talking about this, and I was saying this may be a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm now. It may not seem like much, but it's a scary 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm because it hadn't really intensified. It was taking its time to organize and consolidate, but then around yesterday, this got up to hurricane strength. It was around last night, the night before, where it started to intensify a little bit faster. It got up to 70 miles per hour around 7 p.m. Central Time. Then it kind of held there, and then it became a hurricane later down around the road earlier the next morning around 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and then it's just pretty much been off to the races, especially last night as we went from, I believe, a high-end Category 1 hurricane or a low-end Category 2 hurricane to a Category 5 in the span of 12 hours, which is just absolutely astronomical when you think about it right there. And that is quite the scenario that we've been dealing with this right here. This has just kind of defied all expectations. This system pretty much became the baseball player that's batting .050 in the playoffs, and then just hit a 3-run home run right after that once it found its pitch. And this is just a classic example of that. I know I'm mentioning baseball in this, but that's just the perfect analogy for what Erin is doing right here. And we're going to want to watch and see how this will ultimately pan out right here. And with that being said, let's go ahead and shift over to some models. Then we'll look at some conditions and see what's going on and how much, figure out what the ceiling with this is. So starting off right here, this is our models. We'll start with the H-Wharf right here. With Erin, we're going to take a look at this right here. This is what we got for you right here. Initialization was pretty good from the H-Wharf right here. 931 millibars at 7 a.m. Central Time. Continues to strengthen right here. Remains around high-end Category 4 intensity, although it's already a Category 5 at this current point. But even still, the H-Wharf does have this peak at at least high-end Cat 4 for now, and then as it moves more so towards the northwest, it actually starts to make that turn, and it starts to expand in size as it's expected to undergo some potential eye wall replacement cycles down the road. But at least as of right now, we're not really seeing anything, because as you see on latest microwave imagery, whatever second eyewall was trying to develop is no longer there anymore. So that's a pretty big eye-opener for you guys right there, and that's definitely something you're going to want to pay attention to as well. But moving back to the H-Wharf model as well, taking a quick gander at that, really expands in size, that wind field does, especially as it makes that turn, and then you start to have move towards the north. The system starts to weaken due to wind shear and all of that stuff as well, but then it starts to become loses a little bit of its tropical characteristics down the road, but even still a mid-range Category 2 hurricane at this current point in time, 5 days out. So you're going to want to watch this, and you're going to want to take this seriously still, because this, even if this doesn't impact any more land, it's still going to cause a lot of rip currents. It's going to cause a lot of waves. It's going to cause some more outer bands to potentially get close to Bermuda and the Bahamas and all of that stuff, potentially towards the Turks and Caicos as well. So you're going to want to watch that as well, and we'll continue to keep you updated on those conditions here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. I would not be too surprised, given the westward deviations we've seen in in the track that we could potentially see a couple tropical storm watches for parts of maybe the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas, but that's just my personal opinion right there. Please do take that with a grain of salt. And the H-Wharf has been pretty interesting in that regards, because if we take a look at the track models right here, here's the 18Z track models that we have for you right here. Compared to the 12Z, my goodness, they are a lot more spread out given just how quickly Erin has intensified at this current point. So you're going to want to watch this. You're going to want to take this pretty seriously as well, because we're still seeing those shifts a little bit further and further and further to the west. And this system pretty much has it to thread the needle to kind of impact the least amount of people possible right here, because if this continues to move further to the west, it could put maybe the Bahamas or potentially the Carolinas more in play, potentially for some heavier surf, potentially for some outer bands and all of that stuff. So you're going to want to watch out for that. And if this shifts back to the east, that puts Bermuda in the line of fire, and they definitely do not need a major hurricane at this current point in time. So that's something we need to watch. And I really hope the system does thread the needle, but we'll have to keep you updated on that. Looking at the intensity models, the intensity, my goodness, look at this right here. Majority keep that at Category 5 strength for the next 12 hours. A lot of them actually do strengthen potentially up to 165 or 175 miles per hour as well. But that's kind of your deal with that right here. That's kind of where it caps off, with the exception of a few models here and there that have it kind of keeping at Cat 5 for most of its time. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to potentially undergo an eyewall replacement cycle. Wind shear is going to eventually catch up to it. So we're going to want to kind of see how that ends up panning out. But that's what we have with the models and the H-Wharf right here. Going to show you the H-Mon as well. H-Mon has been kind of interesting as well. H-Mon kind of initializes at 927 millibars north of the Leeward Islands right here, and then as you go on, you start to really bottom out, and you really start to organize and strengthen even more. Category 5 hurricane intensity is expected with the H-Mon at this current point. It potentially undergoes a couple of eyewall replacement cycles down the road, and whatnot. We're at 912 millibars 30 hours out with a peak wind speed of 165 miles per hour according to the H-Mon. You're definitely going to want to pay very close attention to that. Matter of fact, I just wanted, for my own curiosity, look at Recon and see what they're doing. Okay, they're in the storm. I believe they've finished up their recon right now. Actually, with that, yeah, they were doing recon missions all morning with this. That's how they found the 919 millibar and then 915 millibar measurement right there. I apologize for stammering right there, but then as you move on, the system does start to undergo an eyewall replacement cycle, weakens a little bit. Wind field greatly expands in size, though, so you're going to want to pay attention to that and see how that pans out. But still, major hurricane status for the next 4 days. Then it starts to weaken due to wind shear, but still a very large system right here, and potentially a Category 2 to Category 3 hurricane by 5 days out, according to the H-Mon. So you're going to want to take this very, very seriously. Next thing we'll show you is the Halves A run. Halves A is continuing to be pretty interesting as well. Halves A, I don't like the initialization. The initialization point is fine, but I don't like how it drops 17, weakens by 17 millibars right here from a high-end Category 4 to pretty much a Category 3 hurricane right here. I don't like how that happens, but then you start seeing the system strengthening again, getting back up to Category 5 intensity. 165 miles per hour is the peak right there, and that's kind of how the system is going to roll and how the system is going to continue to move. The Halves A actually has this closer to the Turks and Caicos Islands, potentially putting those in the line of fire for some tropical storm force winds right there that you're going to want to pay close attention to if you're in those areas. If this continues to deviate west of its expected track, we could see some tropical storm watches for you guys over there. But then as it starts to make that turn away from the Bahamas, it does weaken more due to wind shear and more eyewall replacement cycles and all of that. So the wind field really expands in size right here, but that's kind of your situation. It really grows, like pretty much from screen to screen from the ends. You're looking at tropical storm force winds right there. So you're definitely going to want to take this very seriously right here. And then as it moves out to sea right here, you're looking at a at a Category 2 hurricane right here, a much larger Category 2 hurricane right there. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. Looking at the halves B for you guys right here, halves B is pretty interesting. I don't like how it drops the intensity from a high-end Cat 4 to a high-end Cat 3 right there. Then it starts to organize and strengthen again. But look at this right here. Category 5 intensity is still 36 hours out and really ramping up in intensity and moving even closer to the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas right here. But then it starts to make that turn. It undergoes a few eyewall replacement cycles as it expands in size by a pretty significant margin right here. And then it starts to move out to sea. And then by about, I'd say, 5 days out, we're looking at a high-end Category 1 hurricane potentially, so you're going to want to watch out for that as well. So that's what your hurricane models are forecasting. Even still, they're a little bit behind, so please do take them with a grain of salt. But my goodness, this system is not slowing down anytime soon right now, and we're going to want to keep you updated on that. Just to show you this, I want to show you the kind of conditions this system moved into last night, and they're going to continue to move into to see, okay, what's the kind of cap on this? What's the kind of ceiling this system can go? How high can we go with the winds right here? Starting off with your water temperatures, well, there's no argument right here. The water temps are pretty warm across the area right here. It moved into 28 and then 29 degrees Celsius waters throughout the day yesterday and throughout the evening as it started to really explosively intensify and go up to 160 miles per hour where it's currently at. Right now. It's expected to move, when it makes that turn, move into potentially 30 degrees Celsius waters, which is about 86 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living in the U.S. and the territories. 29 is about 84 degrees Fahrenheit, so just something to keep in mind. But you're still going to, for a big reason for this, even as the system does start to weaken a bit, it's still going to maintain a lot of its power and a lot of its intensity, primarily because you have all this water temperature right here. And this isn't just the water temperature at the surface. It actually goes down pretty deep, too. OHC continues to be very alarming across much of the Atlantic right now. Where the system is at is over 100 OHC right there, which kind of explains why it intensified so quickly. It's still going to be in that OHC throughout much of the day today, throughout part of the day tomorrow. It does reduce a little bit to about 75 OHC, but still, that's enough to maintain its intensity right there, and you're going to want to watch that. And even as this enters the subtropics, you're still looking at 50 plus OHC, and that's pretty conducive to allow for a pretty large hurricane to maintain its strength, continue to consolidate, continue to organize, expand in size, and really not lose too much of its structure unless it starts to transition to an extratropical cyclone, which that is a possibility down the road. But that's kind of your situation with the water temperatures and the ocean heat content. The wind shear is pretty interesting. We'll go ahead and at least try to pull that up for you guys right here. Okay, I can't really find it. I'll just go ahead and use the try to use the Europeans to try to make heads or tails of it right there. But I will warn you, it will kind of look a little bit with a bias right here. This is what we have, at least where we're at right here. For right here, the wind shear remains pretty weak for the next day or so, but you do have some wind shear towards the northwest that could impact the system. Right here and to the west as well, but still, Erin has been fighting it off pretty considerably over this last little while, and the wind shear really is not going to be much of an issue until probably tomorrow morning, in my opinion. I think that's when it starts to chip away, but ultimately, the fact that the system has been fighting and has been going as long as it has just been astonishing, to be honest with you guys. And that's something we're going to want to watch, and we'll continue to keep you updated on that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Be sure to tune in for the live stream tonight starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We're going to be dissecting Erin. We're going to be looking at this as a Category 5 hurricane, and we're going to be giving our thoughts, opinions, and our analysis as more Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance does go in, hopefully. So be sure to stay tuned for that as well. Also, thank you for the love and support you've given throughout this week as we've covered Erin. I know there's another system potentially going to develop in the MDR and head towards the Caribbean. We'll talk more about that in the coming days. The models are starting to pick up on it a bit more, but we'll keep you updated on that as well. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here today, guys. I'm sorry this is a little bit late. I had to re-record, so hopefully you guys can give me a little bit of mercy here, but be sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you want to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen, and we would really like to have you there. We'd really like to get you guys engaged with weather. That's kind of our main purpose with Storms United. It's really wonderful that we have the community that we have, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without them today. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.